My one piece of advice.
Oh, here it comes.
Let me get my drummer on the table.
Yeah. Man's got rhythm.
Is do not be afraid to make mistakes.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to
Attempting Fatherhood.
Ray Stoney. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, my friend.
For sure. Now, for those who aren't watching the video that we're making here, this video podcast, I want to just kind of give people a little visual. You got the Carolina Boy T-shirt. You got a respectful, tasteful chain that you're rocking there. What's on the medallion?
So this medallion says, "Carry light."
Ooh.
Carry light, Americans.
Ooh.
Right.
What does that mean?
Just means, just spread love, spread positivity everywhere you go.
Oh, carry light. Okay,
Carry
like bring light.
Lights.
Okay, I like that.
You know
I thought you meant like don't do any heavy lifting. Carry light. That's great. And there's a beautiful green plant behind you, which I love, which looks really dope.
And this
Wait, do you have multiple medallions?
So I have two, right?
Ooh.
So this one, I don't know if you know, my dad passed away in September. I think I told you about.
Yes. Well, you and I were talking about that a little bit, and of course we'll chat about that on here if you want as well. But
sure.
Yeah, is that connected to him?
Yeah. So before he passed, I got him to do a fingerprint for me, his thumbprint. Found this company on Etsy that does thumbprinting. So I got his thumbprint, sent it to the company, and they put it on this chain along with his signature on the back.
Oh wow!
So I keep that close to my heart.
That way you could open any iPhone that he formerly had and use his signature for documentation.
Pretty much.
Which is great.
Pretty much.
That's so cool. And what a cool honor that is, because you are, to some degree, and this is part of what makes fatherhood so powerful, you are the fingerprint and signature of your father as he's passing down that legacy of who he is, and now you have a visual representation of that. That's pretty rad.
Correct. He was definitely a big part of my life, so I get a lot of my fatherhood isms from my dad.
Yeah. Well, let's start at the top with your dad's stats.
Okay.
Your dad's stats have recently changed in the past few months.
They have.
How many kids, together, married, all of that kind of stuff, so we can relate to other dads.
I am 3 for 3.
3 for 3.
1,
Boom.
2, 3.
You got 2 boys and a tiny baby girl.
5-month-old baby girl.
5 months. And how old are your other kids?
I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. 2 boys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been married?
Woo, I've been married. I got married in 2010. So, we just celebrated 10 years last year.
Hey, there you go. That was us. We celebrated 10 last year, too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. In fact, we were going to get a tattoo last year, like a Roman numeral X.
Yeah. That's sweet. That's
which
sweet.
I thought was kind of cool.
That's sweet.
But it was our anniversary's in May, and the tattoo place, I'm kind of a tattoo novice. I only have one. They said, oh, yeah, you want to avoid water for like 2 to 4 weeks. And I was like, not during the middle of a Georgia summer. There's no way I can stay out of a pool with my kids. And let's wait till the end of the year. And that has now become on my to-do list today, literally, is to follow up and be like, can we just go? Can we get an X on my arm?
Before the summer comes.
Exactly, because summer's coming again. I mean, it's like 70. Well, it's actually a little chilly today, but yesterday was like 70. So
yeah,
I'm afraid that that window is closing quickly. I got to get in there.
Question.
Yes, sir.
May. So our anniversary. Is May 12th.
Woo! That was close. May 28th.
2 weeks.
28.
2 weeks.
Yeah, 28. I kept getting it wrong before the wedding. I was even telling people the wrong date, so now I second guess it. But there's so many 19s, I almost said May 19th, because Kirsten's birthday is February 19th. Ellis is May 19th. Loic was February 28th. You know what? Because Kirsten sometimes listens to my podcast, I'm going to double check this on my
double check that.
Kirsten, right now.
He didn't mean it.
This is just real talk, guys. This is just real talk. I know you out there. Yeah, 28. There we go. Boom. I was right.
Boom. So we're 2 weeks apart. There we go.
Yeah, that's exciting, man. So 10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
Man. Yeah.
And when you got married, were you, it sounds like you were super close to your dad.
Yes.
Were you guys like best friends growing up?
Yes.
Kind of thing? Or did that just evolve later? Okay.
No, from day one. Day one. Best friends from day one. And then in my wedding, he was my best man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Pops
That's really rad.
That was my ace, man.
Yeah.
That was my dude.
Now, were your parents together? Did you have both parents together when you were growing up, or did you live with your dad, or how did that work?
So I had both parents growing up.
Okay.
But my parents separated when I was, I want to say I was maybe like 5. Maybe.
Okay.
Like I briefly remember, like I faintly remember like in like kindergarten, us still living together. But they separated. But I had both parents growing up, and I lived with my mom until I was about, I want to say until I was about in the 3rd grade.
Okay.
And then I moved.
So it's like 8?
Yeah, it's about 8 years old. Then I moved in with my dad, and I've been with my dad ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really interesting, especially because, the formative years, you had both of them around, and then to be with mom. Do you remember that time with mom as like so different? Were mom and dad so different?
No, they were pretty much the same.
Okay.
They loved hard, but they gave you a lot of freedom. Like I was one of those kids where I could just go.
Yeah.
Long as you were home before the street lights came on, you could go.
That was so good. Would you do that now? Do you do that now with your kids? Like, okay, we'll just see you before the lights come on?
No.
No, right?
I can't.
No, it's crazy. Can't do it.
I can't do it. I can't do it. It was a different era.
It was, man.
Now,
here's a question I always ask. Is because this comes up all the time. Is it a different era, or are we just more aware because of social media and all these other things? Like, certainly terrible things were going on when I was a kid, right? Like people were being kidnapped and people were being, whatever, sex trafficked, like all these awful things I'm sure were going on. But there was no way for me to know that. And my parents were like, we watch the news every now and then. And then there's so many of these micro moments, like you're hearing about kids across the world, and you're coagulating all that into like my possible experience in Fayetteville or Knoxville, where I grew up, or whatever.
Right.
So it's like, do you think is it worse now, or we're just more aware and the world seems smaller? I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm just curious.
I think it might be a combination of both, right? I think it might be that we're more aware. There's a lot of things going on social media and the news.
Yeah.
Like you said, but also I think like in our era, in our generation, I feel like, at least in my neighborhood, everyone on your block in your neighborhood were parents, right?
Yep.
Whether you were their biological child or not, they were still a parent, right?
And they had their eyes out for you.
They had their eyes out, right? They can call and say, "Hey, Lil Ray's down here, next to my house," or and everyone just kept a watch. Nowadays, people mind their business,
right? That's a good point.
Stay away. Like, listen, I didn't see it. Don't want to have anything to do with it. But
I never considered that. Interesting.
Yeah, man. Yeah, like back then, man. It's like I had a neighborhood full of parents.
Yeah.
Everyone had everyone's number, or they had someone who had someone else's who had your mom's number.
Did you ever play on a sports team with a phone tree? Like if the game got rained out, you had to call 2 people. Those people will call 2 people, and you're like, I'm responsible for that. That would it's just a group text now. Boom, sent. Everything's done.
That's it.
The phone tree is a concept long lost on kids today.
Long lost. They know nothing about that.
Nothing.
Well,
it's interesting too, because I think people are certainly, it seems like, again, this could just be seems like, but busier, I mean, COVID aside, with people being at home. And so even if you live in a neighborhood with a bunch of parents, they're running their kids to soccer practice. Those kids are coming back. It's like dual income. Both parents are working. I feel like growing up, everybody was home. All my friends were at home. After school, you just played. You didn't play anything specific. Parents were around, or at least one of the parents were around. Yep. So, there were more eyes back then, too.
Yeah, tons of eyes.
Yeah.
And everyone had permission.
Yeah.
To parent.
Yeah. Right.
Everyone had permission. If you see him acting stupid,
you do. Go for it.
Take care of it.
Do what you need to do.
Exactly.
That's right. That's funny, man. As I'm looking out the window here and see a couple of kids rolling through on their Strider bikes and no parent in sight. It's a little different here in the Trilith, man. People are like a little too lax, I feel like, but that's just my own thing.
Yeah.
All right, well, I want to get into how you define fatherhood. This is a question I ask dads because this gives a lot of insight into past and kind of how you parent as well. But how do you specifically define the role of fatherhood?
I specifically define the role of fatherhood as availability.
Ooh,
that's
great
my
word
thing,
choice.
Right? Being available to your children. You know what I mean? My dad, and my mom too, but I lived with my dad longer. And my mom passed away in 2004. Okay. So I had my dad many more years after my mom.
Right.
And my dad was just always available. Anything I wanted to do, any place I wanted to go, whatever I needed, he always made himself, like, whatever he was doing got put on pause to be available for his son. And then after I was straight, then he resumed what he was doing, right? Whether it was work, whatever the case. So I try to carry that same energy into my kids. Like, I just try to stay available. Just, you know, just let them know that whatever you need, whatever you want to do, Dad is here and Dad will be a part of it. And Dad would just, you know, just be that guy. Like, when you call my name, here I am.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. And that's part of that legacy. That's part of that thumbprint, right, that we talked about at the beginning. Is like, that's something that you're passing down directly, that your dad was so proactive about. Did you realize it growing up? Like, that's weird. Like, Tom's dad's always busy, and like Elizabeth's dad's always busy, but my dad's always available. Or was that like later on in life you look back and you're like, that was pretty cool?
Yeah, kind of later on.
Okay.
Later, like when I reminisce, I'm like, man, every basketball game I had, he was there. You know, he was always in the stands yelling, and all my friends would be like, hey man, is your dad coming to the game tonight to raise hell with the refs? And I'm like, yeah, he'll be there. You know what I mean? I look back at old photos and I'm like, man, what's that Laker game, man? Me and Pops, and we went to, you know, when I gave birth to my first son, you know, I got pictures of him right there with the baby, and you know what I mean? It's a compilation of everything. When I look back, he was always there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was always available.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, you're an actor, obviously very accomplished. You've done a ton of stuff, and that also tends to, as a freelance person myself, I know that can rub against being available.
Right.
You got to travel for work. You got auditions. There's times you got to put your foot down and say, I got to go do this thing,
right,
so we can eat. I got to leave for, you know, and sometimes for actors, depending on what the role is, you could be gone a couple months. It could be a couple days, whatever. How do you kind of balance that work-life balance when it comes to being available, something that you really want to do, but also the reality of, I got bills to pay? Well,
as far as if I'm gone more than 2 weeks, like if I know up front I'm gonna be going a month and a half, anything more than 2 weeks, I bring my family with me.
Nice. Okay. Cool. So that's kind of like just an easy across the board rule.
Across the board. If I'm going more than 2 weeks, we all going on the plane.
Yeah.
Or if they have something going on, right, that they can't step away from at the time.
Yeah.
Then when that 2 week period hits, then they're still coming.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And as far as like if I'm going under 2 weeks, you know, I just check in every day. Like every day, multiple times a day, there's a FaceTime call.
Yeah.
Right? Not just a voice.
Right,
you know,
right.
I FaceTime them, let them know where I am, show them, you know, what's going on in my world, my current world, and so they can kind of feel like they're there.
I like that. That's a good perspective. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'll FaceTime, but don't necessarily think of the why. Like that way they can feel like they're a part of it, and you're not so distant. That's a cool point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, as an actor, how do you see that kind of like informing your parenting? I mean, for myself, you know, my whole world is imaginative play, right? As an actor, it's all imagination. And for kids, it's all imagination. So you know that lines up really well. But your kids are getting older as well. So, you know, how do you kind of mesh? How do you bring your professional life into your fathering, I guess?
Well, you know, I like to watch a lot of shows that keep you abreast of what's going on in the world. Okay. Right? Even though scripted, but it's still kind of based in reality, right? So I like to learn a lot of things that you shouldn't do. You know, a lot of things that are cool. When I watch these shows, like when these writers are writing and I'm getting these different perspectives and I see what's going on the screen, then I bring that into my parenting in terms of, you probably shouldn't let your kids go here because these things do happen, right?
Yeah, so Euphoria. You just sit them down and say, do nothing you're going to watch for the next hour.
Exactly.
Okay, these are all no's. Exactly. Everything else is a yes. This is the no.
Exactly. Exactly. And then also, you know, my kids, my kids have a YouTube channel that we just started, right?
Yes. I'm going to talk about that at the top of the show when I go back and do my VO. But how did that come about?
So we watch TV all the time, and we watch different movies, different TV shows, and we watch these YouTube channels that they like to watch. And a lot of times I take them in my basement. I have a studio, right? So I take them in my basement, and we just do practice auditions because they seen Daddy on TV. So they say, I want to do this. We go down in the basement, turn the lights on, get the mic up, boom, and we do practice auditions.
Amazing.
And so between doing those practice auditions and watching these YouTube channels, they're like, we want to do a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
so my wife's like, okay, let's do it. So we started one, and so I get to bring that into it, like my acting into fatherhood by writing scripts with them, planning what we're going to shoot, and actually, executing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think, do you look back on that? Or is there a part of you that's like, if I had this when I was a kid, man, where I would be right now?
Man.
I don't resent you, my child, but...
B. It's like, man.
I know, man. Oh, man. Now, when I was a kid growing up, my dad, engineer. My mom's dad, engineer. My dad's dad, engineer. My mom, teacher. These were regular, real jobs, right? I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. I didn't know anybody in the entertainment industry. I didn't know anything about the entertainment industry. And I look back on that, and I think, I did stand-up one time in my, 5th grade talent show. Killed, by the way. Yeah. and some of these different things, I would always grab the video camera, want to be around it, and do some editing with in-camera editing, because there was no editing software at the time that I knew about.
Right.
And I looked at those and I was like, oh man, I wish my parents had highlighted that and been like, you could pursue that. Let's check this out. Let's try this out. Let's get you. But they're also, I give them credit. It wasn't like there was this. You couldn't just go on YouTube and watch videos about editing or how to become a great filmmaker, or it was like, okay, so this must mean film school. That was the only option in that realm, or I guess we got to move our whole family to LA, and that was not going to happen. You know. So I understand the context of it, but man, I just wish. Sometimes I think about where Ellis is, and I'm like, you have such a head start on simple stuff, because so many people are shooting with cameras on their phones and stuff now. People are even less weird about a camera.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, oh yeah, green screen. We'll watch Avengers, and Ellis will be like, do you think that's all computer generated there? And I'll be like, yeah, I think it is. She's like, you think they used a blue screen? I'm like, yeah, in fact, the one across the street. But how are you so smart, Exactly. So I'm sure you feel the same way.
Oh yeah. When my kids watch it, my 3-year-old's like, look at that, look how that dinosaur jumped into the water. And my 6-year-old like, London, that's green screen. And then they had this back and forth battle, that's not green screen, that's real. He's like, no, London, it's green screen. So it's like, yeah,
it's hilarious.
They're
Look at the
aware.
Shadowing. You can tell that it's not the right. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that a lot of my dads talk about too, and I think you brought it up, which is this element of, a lot of times when people get married, and especially when they have kids, they can throw the brakes on their life, and now it's all about the kid, and everything else that I used to do, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to hang with the dudes and get drinks. I'm not going golfing, fly fishing, running, whatever the thing is that was really a big piece of you. And I've had guys say kind of, what would you tell a new dad, or what would you tell new dads? And a lot of them have said, don't stop being you.
Right.
And I think, that's such a vital element, because you're bringing that experience and that knowledge, in this case, acting, green screen, shooting, editing, all that, to kids that took you years to accumulate.
Right. And
you're now able to impart that element, not even kindness, goodness, wisdom, all the great, make a human, but just make an interesting person. And so it's encouraging, I guess, to hear that you're bringing them into it, and it's not this definitive line of, this is dad's work, you go do your play, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, definitely include them, man. And definitely don't stop being you. Because I feel like if you continue to be yourself and continue to do the things that make you happy outside of parenthood and outside of being a family man, then it'll only make you a better parent and a better family man, right? Because you're happy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
what is that for you? What are those things?
I hang with the fellas every now and then, but I would say my thing is I'm I'm real easy, man. Like, if you
just the way you talk, your whole demeanor, man.
Yeah, man.
When I first met you, and I'll put this in the top of the show too, but when I first met you, I was like, is that dude alive? Like, in such a good way. Like, you're like the essence of like chill cat blues kind of dude. I was like, man,
I'm like,
this guy's cooler than I'll ever be.
I'm like Love Jones, bro. I'm just like, I'm chill. You know what I mean?
So chill. So
it's
chill.
like my thing is like, give me like 2 hours of just me. And just let me sit on the couch and watch Law and Order SVU, drink a beer maybe, or a cup of hot tea, put my feet up, and just zone out. Like, I don't really need to, like, get out of the house much or because I really do enjoy being around my family, right? And I really do enjoy playing with my kids. But every now and then, it's like an hour to myself just to, just sit down, just decompress, watch something mindless. That I don't really have to pay attention to.
Right.
Because, I'll be watching, I have my phone. I'm catch back up and I'm back on my phone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just that time to decompress is really all I need.
And then is your wife like totally on board with that? Did you have to kind of come to a shorthand understanding like within those 10 years of like, hey, this is something I need? Like, I can see how early marriages, myself included, I just would do those things without communicating them, and then they could seem selfish, or they could seem like I'm not considering you, or it could seem lazy, that type of thing. Did you guys kind of come to that shorthand, or how was that work?
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely a transition, in a relationship, because I was always like that. Like you said, I would just like take those moments, and I didn't want them to feel like I was trying to ignore them. So we kind of adapted, right? And she kind of just picked up on the fact that, hey, Daddy needs a few minutes alone. Yeah. But now I try to do it when, like, before I used to do it spontaneous. Like, I would just take that time.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's like, boom, y'all leave me alone. Daddy needs a minute. Now
this is my card.
Yeah, it's my card.
Here it is.
Exactly. Now I kind of plan it. Like, hey, I tell my wife, hey, tomorrow, there's a show coming on. I just want to decompress, or I'll do it when they go to bed, or sometimes they might go on a golf cart ride or something. Yeah. Go to the arcade and I'll hang back. Most of the times I'm there, but every now and then I'll hang back just to get a little quiet time.
Now, you should explain for the audience going on a golf cart ride. I know that's very normal for you.
Right.
But people are like, does he live on a golf course? No, it's the part of the community where you live in Georgia.
Right. It's part of the community where I live where they have golf cart tracks. And so
all around.
It's
crazy.
All around, man. You know what I mean?
You can run all of your errands on a golf cart. You can get your fast food, you can go to your groceries, you can hit up TJ Maxx, Marshall's, Home Goods, that whole conglomerate. All of that from a golf cart. It's pretty wild.
It's pretty wild. And it saves gas.
Oh, yeah. Not to mention just like the hassle of car seats and like getting in and out, and like especially with multiple kids, man. Yeah. At least Ellis can buckle herself, so that's one down.
Right.
Loic, sometimes he's like a fish out of water, just like flailing, and I'm trying to get that tickle, that like collapses him, and I can clip him in real quick. And sometimes that doesn't even work, man. He's a strong dude.
Yeah.
So you can avoid that for errands. That's life saving.
It's life saving, man.
Yeah.
No traffic. You know what I mean? Sometimes, depending on the time of day, just me trying to go around the corner in the car takes longer than me just jumping on the golf cart and just going through the little path through the woods, and I'm there in like 5 minutes.
And this is brilliant because this was built into the city planning. This wasn't like an afterthought of somebody being like, let's pave these walking trails and turn them into golf cart paths. This is like it's like the subway system of New York for Georgia. There's like an element of like it's more efficient, it's quicker, it's quieter, it's safer, all of that.
And when I was in California, what really attracted us to this when we made the move, when I was in California, we were in Valencia. And Valencia is a pre-planned city as well, so they have these tracks, so to speak. They're more like sidewalks, but they're wide, and they run through the city, and they go to all the stores.
Wide walks.
Wide walks. There you go.
Wide walks.
Wide
Boom.
Walks.
Taking that.
Wide walks. It's a pre-planned city with wide walks.
How long were you in California? I didn't know that.
20 years, man.
20 years? So you grew up there then? Okay.
I lived in California longer than I lived anywhere.
Did you think you were in California forever and I'm going to raise a family and live out here and all that?
I didn't ever think I was leaving California.
No.
Ever.
So how do you like Georgia?
I like Georgia. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
You know, there are elements of California, obviously, that I miss because for the past 20 years, that's been home. You know, and I've lived there longer than any place I've ever lived. Yeah. Born in Carolina, obviously.
Yes. Carolina boy.
Born in Carolina, grew up in Atlanta.
Okay.
And then after I graduated school, I moved to California, and I've been there for 20 years. So being back in Georgia is definitely nice. You know, I'm catching up with family and all my middle school and high school friends that I grew up with. But I never thought that I would leave California. Yeah. Yeah, I never thought it.
I've found recently my understanding of life is like just being open.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. You could, you know, I thought we were in New York for at least a decade. We were only there 3 years. And then a gigantic global pandemic happens. You can't plan for that.
No.
It doesn't mean you just, okay, this is what it is. We're going to roll with the punches.
Exactly. And, you know, even during that pandemic, you know, I was like, okay, market has crashed. Interest rates are at an all-time low. Let's look for a house now, right? Because we were renting. So we're looking around, we'll find these houses, different houses. You know, you're paying $700,000 for a fixer-upper. It's a 2-bedroom house, yada, 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 right? And so I'm like, And then it's like, okay, we could settle on something. Maybe let's get a townhouse. Yeah. You know, maybe let's get a townhouse.
Something in between?
Something in between, you know, a little nicer. Doesn't need as much work as the standalone house. But my wife was like, why don't we go to Georgia? And I'm like, And I was like, I don't know, babe.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to leave California.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then we started looking. And I was looking at what we could get.
Yeah.
For what we were spending.
Right. Especially at that time.
At that time, man. When those interest rates just went boom.
Yeah, you're like, I could own a part of Georgia.
Yes.
Or I could get a fixer-upper house in Valencia.
Exactly. So
that's a big difference.
It just started to make more sense, man. The more we thought about it, it started to make more sense. So I was like, you know what? Don't necessarily need to be here right now.
Yeah.
When the business picks back up, I just resume to traveling.
Yep.
You know, so hey, made that move.
Yeah. Dude, I feel the same way. We were in New York, and then, you know, when we were leaving, it was like, we decided to leave. Kirsten was like, we should think about Atlanta. And I was like, yeah, Atlanta? Come on now. I grew up in Tennessee. Atlanta is just a big traffic hub. Like, there's no point. What's going on in that city? And I don't know if we need to be there. And I you know, it's like, I love New York. I miss, you know, all this kind of stuff. But I wanted to be open. And I was like, let me just think about it, right? Let's just sit on it. And let's just, you know, and the more we looked as well, we were like, all right, well, we could pay half in rent and get twice the size. We had just Loic had just been finalized. His adoption had just been finalized. So all of a sudden we were looking at having, you know, a screaming, crying baby in our 700 square foot apartment in Brooklyn. Right. Where would we put him? The kitchen, I guess. Right. Like maybe the cupboard would be his bassinet or something. So we're like, no, that's just where we are in life right now. This is it. Just trying to be honest with that. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, man. All right. So here's a thing. Do you have any stories? If you have any like hashtag dad life stories, it could be fails. Like I had one dad talk about like how he great. He had told his kids, they were like, we want to see the monster from the Emily Blunt and John Krasinski. I think Quiet Now or something like that was the movie. And he's like, no, you're not going to see it. Like, come on, just Google it, Dad. Just show us. And they're, you know, like 12 and 8 maybe are his daughters. No, I'm not going to do it. Just show us. Okay. So he shows them one picture, and then the oldest daughter won't sleep for a month. She now needs someone in the room. And he was just like, I was like, no, should not have done this. So there's also dad success stories, of course. So I'm sure you've got plenty of both. What you got?
Man. So one time we were at the barbershop. Right?
Ooh, okay.
In California. And my two boys, this is before we had the baby girl. So my two boys, my youngest, London, was probably 1.5 maybe. Right. Still had that funny walk.
The toddle.
Yeah, like the toddler walk, right? So he so Q was finished. London was finished. Right? It was, so the barbershop was in a little strip mall, right? And so there were like cars parked right up to the curb, right? Of like the sidewalks, like the curb, and in the store. So, and they had a bench sitting out front. So my wife was in there getting her hair cut, right? Because she had like the shave size with all that good stuff. So I'm sitting outside on the bench and I'm holding Q, and London keeps walking up to this car that's parked, right? Because the car has some cool looking rims on it.
Okay.
So he's walking up to the car, right? And he's looking at the rims.
It's shiny, Dad. It's shiny.
Yeah, it's shiny rims. And he's like touching the rims. He's poking it. And then he walks back over to me.
Okay.
Right?
Like he's kind of like checking in. Like, I can go this far, I can come back.
Exactly, right? So then he walks back to the car right by the bumper, and he's like looking at the wheels, and he keeps touching the rim. Then he walks back to me, right? So I'm having a conversation with another gentleman outside. I'm holding my boy on my lap.
Yeah, you're doing the dad thing. You're multitasking. I got eyes on him. I'm talking to you. I'm holding baby.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, I see everything out my peripheral. I'm like, okay, I got him. He's there. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, unbeknownst to me, everyone in the barbershop is watching this action going on.
Yeah, because they're behind you.
Exactly.
You can't see them. They're all looking out. Okay.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
So London goes over to look at the wheels again. You know, and he's like looking at it, poking it, and then he looks over at me, and I'm looking at him, and then he just bolts. Boom. Right? Bolts toward the back of the car to run into the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, snap. So I drop my other one. Yeah. I'm like, boom, drop him.
You're a stranger who I just spoke with. Hold this baby.
Exactly. And then I run, right? And right as he got, thank goodness, there were no cars coming, but he was going into the parking lot.
Yeah, full speed.
Right as he got to the back bumper, I just scooped him up, woo, right, and I made it like fun.
Yeah.
My heart was
for him,
boom, 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 right. And so I turn around after I scoop him up and made it like fun. I turn around and my wife is standing at the door. Everyone in the barbershop was looking out the window, and my wife was like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "I got him, babe. I got him." And she was like, "Why are you letting him play with that rim?" Didn't know the whole time. Everyone was looking like, why is he letting his son play with the rim?
Oh, no, you're getting total shade from everyone behind you.
Everyone.
That was like, you know what? Can you hold him? I'm going to bolt into the parking lot now because I'm out of here.
Exactly.
It's too much.
So that was like a fail and an embarrassment all at the same time, all wrapped in one.
I mean, did you feel like, oh, I'm shameful, I should have been keeping tabs, or was it just like, you know what, like, I'm glad it turned out this way, I probably should have been, or was that like all day you were trying to shake that off? How are you? How do you deal with that kind of thing?
I was trying to shake that off for like weeks.
Yeah. Because of like what could have happened, the thought of like, what if he got hit? He could have gotten hit, and I was right there.
Right. Because of what could have happened, right? So for weeks, man, I just I couldn't shake it. I kept thinking about it and thinking about it. I was like, man. And that was the day that we learned that he was a runner. Because my wife has stories too that happened after that day. Like one time he tried to run into a body of water when he was with her. Right? She had to chase him.
Yeah.
Because he was standing right beside her and they were by a pond, and then he just looked at it and went, boom.
I'm out.
Right? So we learned that day that he was a runner. So in theory, it was kind of a good thing because we got that knowledge that, okay, this is our runner kid. Right? My other son is our safe dude. You know, you know, this dude,
he's out.
It's whatever. He's down for whatever. So so in theory, it was a good thing, but I'm glad I was there to catch him.
I'm glad you can kind of twist that. I like that. Are you an anxiety type of person? Are you someone who like worries, like you hear a siren in the distance and you're like, that's my kids, man, I know something happened?
Nah.
Or are you just, no, that's good, man. Just chill with it.
I'm chill. I'm like, whatever. I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
I never think the worst.
That's
never.
Good. No,
never
that's
think
good.
the worst.
Is your wife like, you know what could have happened? And you're like, nothing could have happened. And she's like, are you kidding?
Yes.
Everything could have happened.
Yes. She thinks
she's the yin to your yang.
She is. She thinks the worst all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
That's why my wife, Kirsten, stopped watching SVU and NCIS and all those things, because it was just filling her with multiple choice options.
Right.
For the next time a thing goes wrong. Ellis was supposed to be home. I saw on an episode recently last night that 5 kids were abducted. That's A. B, she was taken by a terrorist. C, she's like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. She sitting next to me like, how can you watch this?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just TV, babe.
It's not real, babe.
It's not real scripted.
It's not a documentary.
No, it's scripted. It's scripted TV. It's on NBC. It's like, no, how can you watch this thing they do to these children? How can you watch it? I'm like, you go do something else.
Yeah, this is my hour.
This is my
Remember
hour.
we talked about this.
Remember we talked about that? I'm watching SVU, okay?
Yeah.
It's my show.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, man.
I want to get into a little bit about raising kids in this environment in terms of race.
Okay.
So in terms of how you inform your kids about interacting with the general public, this is something that we are much more aware of, having Loic as a son, and much more proactive about seeking guidance on and being aware of and all that kind of thing. I mean, certainly 2020 and 2021 were hugely, at least in the news. We have a foster daughter who's 25. Her name's Ashley, South LA, grew up in Watts. Amazing, has overcome so many things. And my uninformed, white self would talk to her so many times, be like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I heard about a cop shooting or something," and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's just how we've always For her, it was no big deal,
right.
Not that it didn't matter. It was like someone being like, "I heard the stock market dropped." Be like, "Yeah, it drops all the time," kind of like thing.
Right.
And so I'm curious from a dad standpoint, how did your dad help you, and how are you kind of passing that along? Because I think a lot of our listeners want to know how. Just kind of in the mix, either to understand it for their own experience or to be able to know this is what dads are going through, man.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, man, my dad when I was really young was a cop. Right?
Oh yeah, okay.
He was a cop in the South.
Oh wow.
In South Carolina in the 70s, right? 70s and 80s. So he saw a lot of stuff, man.
Yeah.
He saw a lot of stuff. And so he was able to...
Did he bring that home?
He didn't. I don't remember.
Okay, yeah,
I don't remember.
Right, because you were with your mom kind of from 5 to 8, you said?
Yeah,
right?
but I mean, but even still, it's like... I just don't remember him. I remember him being a cop. He was like a plainclothes cop.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And so, I remember sometimes, going on car rides with him. Like, he would take me to school. Sometimes we would stop by Hardee's.
Yeah. Hardee's. Heck yeah.
Carl's Jr. in LA.
Side note. I don't want to throw the rails off of this. I was up for a Wendy's spot.
Okay.
I was on a veil. It was between me and they were like camera testing these people, and I kept saying, "I love this Hardee's burger." Instead of Wendy's. I love this Hardee's burger. And they're like, take it again. I love this Hardee's burger. And my agents were like, what the was that? They're releasing you because you can't say Wendy's. I was crying. I'm in my car heading back to my apartment where I can only pay rent 1 week at a time. It was devastating. But I was like, I will never eat at a Hardee's because of that.
Never. So
anyway, Hardee's. Yes. Sorry.
But yeah, I remember going Hardee's and playing on his CB, you know what I mean, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I remember parts of him being a cop. I don't remember all of it. But later in life, I learned a lot of the stories that he would tell me about his days being an officer. So he saw a lot of stuff. He learned how to maneuver. He learned when people were being fake and when people were being genuine. And so he just he's taught me a lot of things to look out for. But he also just told me that don't be surprised if people treat you a certain way because of your color. He said because 9 times out of 10 it will happen.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And this is how you respond to that, right? He taught me different ways to respond to it.
Wow. And so smart.
Yeah. And so I try to instill that in my kids. I'm obviously, as you know, we're interracial.
Yeah.
And so my kids are half black, half white.
Yeah.
Technically Italian, but white.
Yeah.
And so, we teach them about Black History Month, right? And we teach them about. I tell them about different experiences that I went through, right? Just to let them understand that, hey, these kinds of things used to happen to Daddy.
Yeah.
Right. We're not that far removed from when it was really, really bad.
Yeah.
Right. But
especially in the South.
Especially in the South.
Yeah.
Right. But today there are still instances. And I've had some instances in California. Personally, I would say in California more than I've experienced in the South. Right? So
that's interesting.
Yeah, so I just tell them, hey, these kind of things can happen. People may treat you differently sometimes because of the color of your skin. Yeah. But we respond in this way. We respond in positive ways. We let them be who they are, and we gravitate toward the people that don't treat us that way.
Yeah.
Because they are, I tell them, I believe there are more good people in the world than bad people, right? And we know a lot of good people.
Yeah.
So you gravitate toward the good people. You know what I mean? You educate the bad, and if they receive it well, then hopefully they'll turn to good, and everything will be fine. If they don't receive it, then we just gravitate away from them toward the good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do they receive that? Are they just kind of like most kids where it's like you show them a touch screen and you say, this is how a touch screen works? And I'm like, oh, okay, because I don't know anything different. They kind of receive it that way? Or are they like, why, Dad? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I say my 3-year-old is kind of like, okay, cool. And then he's like, boom, I want to go watch Paw Patrol.
I love that. We'd like to speak about race, son. Great. Okay, these horrible things may happen. Okay, cool. So Paw Patrol, that comes on now, or
exactly.
Okay.
But my 6-year-old Q, he's a question asker.
Yeah.
And he's a thinker. You know what I mean? He's like, well,
he's the quieter one, right?
Correct.
London's the bolter.
Q's the
thinker.
Q's the thinker. Q's like,
okay,
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah, it doesn't. And
it doesn't.
Like, well, why would they
do
this? And I'm like, that's just the way it is. Some people are insecure. I said, some people have been taught that, right? It's been passed down, generation to generation. If you have someone that's the head of the household that is hateful, then they are probably going to teach hate. I said, so it's generally not the children's fault when you run across kids like this. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but he asks a lot of questions.
Yeah.
He thinks about things, he analyzes things. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, why would they do this? And why would they? And why would they? When we have those conversations, I just keep it 100. Like, I'm always real. Like, I don't sugarcoat things. I show them pictures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of not like super violent, but I would show him pictures of, this is what happened. This is how people were treated.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So just because he's for a 6-year-old, he's pretty mature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, you can't go all the way, but there are some things that I feel like for him it's appropriate because he's definitely a thinker and an asker, and he's the kind of person that says, well, when I grow up, I want to do this to help change that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well then I need to show you some things so you can have some things on your radar as you grow to say, hey, this is what I want to change.
Man, I feel like that's a much deeper, more meaningful parallel to the idea of like learning green screen and learning lines and stuff, right? Which is like, here's the toolbox, and I'm just putting stuff in here.
Right.
This is when you're going to use a hammer. This is when you're going to use a chisel. This is when you're going to use a knife. And I think as a kid, that's so powerful. I feel like the earlier you can have those age appropriate, right?
Right. Exactly.
Loic doesn't have a metal hammer; he's got a plastic one.
Correct.
Age appropriate in how you address what you tell them is so powerful for giving them a head start, and also really creating this sense of like, my dad was always honest with me, right? Whether they know that consciously or not, there's an element of like, I can trust the information coming from this authority figure in my life. And I think that's powerful too, because I was talking to another dad a couple days ago, and we were talking about making those deposits in the bank so that when you have to make a withdrawal, like total dad fail, or I forgot your birthday, I don't know, like something huge, it doesn't wreck the relationship because you've been there to kind of prove that. I think tools are such a great example of that.
Oh yeah, man. And I think we should give them real tools.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, like my kids always say, like my 6-year-old and Q in London, the two boys, they have seen their births live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because they say, how are babies born? You know what I mean? It's like, well, I'm not, babies don't come, the stork don't drop them off at the front door.
There's no stork.
There's no stork.
Sorry.
It's like mommies and daddies, they get, they have their alone time.
Yeah.
And mommies, daddies sometimes get mommies pregnant, and then we go to the hospital and they say, well, can I see one? Why not? Let's show you yours.
Amazing. What was their response? Were they just like, this is awesome, I love it? Or were they like, that's disgusting?
No, they were like,
puppy pals.
They were like, this is awesome. right? And they're like staring at the screen, and we're like showing them on the phone. They're like, and we're talking to them. Okay, so this is the doctor. This is mommy. This is mommy's vagina, and the baby comes through this tube and this canal, and you'll see the head, and you start seeing the head come out, and boom, there's the baby.
Yep.
Right. And so we've actually recorded everyone's birth except Landry, the baby girl.
Okay.
Because of COVID, she was born in COVID time. They wouldn't let me record it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. So,
but yeah, they've seen it. They understand babies.
Yeah.
Where babies come from.
Yeah.
How they come out, the whole nine. So like we just keep it real with them, man. I mean, they're little people, and they're like these sponges. They just absorb everything, and they want to know. And I just don't want to tell them anything that's like fairy tale-ish.
Right. If you tell them it's a stork, and then they go to school, and somebody's like, I came out of my mom's vagina, then they're going to look like an idiot, because they're going to either debate them and be like, no, it comes from a stork, or they're going to feel like an idiot because they're going to be proved wrong when 8 other kids say, you're stupid, that's wrong. Right. Kids don't really have nuance. And so they're going to get blasted, and then they're going to be like, look what you made me look like a fool. You didn't tell me the real stuff. Exactly. And I think that's so powerful too. I remember feeling like an idiot because I didn't know stuff. And it wasn't really my parents' fault. I don't think they knew necessarily how early in school these things are coming up in peer groups. You know? And of course, wellness class or health class in middle school tries to address these things in a really awkward way. That's, But I think that's such a powerful thing, too, being honest with your kids in that way. And again, that just is more deposit in the bank. Right. More deposit in the bank that we're here.
Exactly.
I love that.
So keep it 100 with them, man.
That's so good, man. All right, well, you've given a lot of great advice. Before I let you go, what is one bit of dad advice that you would specifically give to dads listening out there? It could be encouragement. It could be don't do this, whatever it is. You got the ears of every dad out there. What you got?
Dads out there in America and abroad. My one piece of advice.
Oh, here it comes.
Let me get my drum roll on the table.
Yeah. Man's got rhythm.
Is do not be afraid to make mistakes.
Ooh.
Because you're going to make them, right? So just accept the fact that, hey, I made a mistake. It's a growing pain. It's a learning curve, right? Because you can't get it right if you never get it wrong. So just make the mistake, accept it, own up to it, learn from it, and keep moving. That's all I got, man. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, man.
That's so good. And I think showing your kids that you can make a mistake and be okay. You know what? That was my bad. And we're still good. Right. That you remove that level of perfectionism that maybe they think that they need to ascribe to. Right. That's just, you're taking off handcuffs right there. You're really giving freedom to your kids.
You're taking them off. And when your kids make them, right, just know that they're kids.
Yeah. Ooh.
Right? They're kids. They're going to make mistakes.
Especially if you have, really mature kids. It sounds like Q is kind of a little older than his actual age. I feel like Ellis is this way. I forget, and I was this way as a kid too, and I forget, wait, she's just 8. I'm thinking she's 18 or something. Exactly. No, she's supposed to be crazy emotional at the end of the day because she still can't balance it. She should be bummed because she doesn't want to go to church. She doesn't want to go to school. She doesn't want, because she's 8.
She's 8. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's a good reminder too.
Exactly. Just because they know, all the ABCs and they know their address and their phone number and they know how to call 911 and unlock your cell phone. Yeah. They're still 8.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
They're going to do things that 8-year-olds do.
I love that, man. So I love it.
Mistakes are just mistakes, man. Just accept them, learn from them. Don't make anybody feel bad. Don't make your spouse feel bad when they make a mistake. Because they're mistakes. We're going to make them. Right?
That's all it is.
That's all it is. It's a mistake. Don't be afraid to make
thank you. Thank you, Ray Stoney, for attempting fatherhood.
I'm trying.
You're doing it. Hey, dads, just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you so much for supporting Attempting Fatherhood. This has been such a fun project, and I hope it's encouraging you and informing you and bringing a sense of community to the dadhood, the fatherhood, the dad life. And the only way that really happens is by you guys getting involved. So make sure you're following us on Instagram, Attempting Fatherhood, subscribing to this podcast, and just as important as those things, share this podcast with other dads because that's how you build that community. And don't forget, use your code BIRDAF and get 15% off any of the products at birdhair.com. That's BIRDAF to get 15% off. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day.